Hi there, I'm Kristen, and today I'll be providing an update on news related to NDA waivers for those who have had information about UAPs and UFOs. So on July 21st, 2026, President Trump directed federal agencies to waive prior NDAs for former government employees and contractors who have relevant information relating to UAPs. And so those whistleblowers will essentially be allowed to report information to AARO, which is the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or to the president's UAP task force called PURSUE. But they have mentioned within the White House that this is not a declassification effort and information cannot be provided to the public. So it is a tiny little step forward towards kind of having more information come out essentially through the war.gov website. But as it stands now, it is going to be a kind of long process of getting whistleblowers to come forward to AARO and to PURSUE and to kind of talk about what has happened, especially within military contractor efforts. So I know that there is one big division within the federal government that is responsible for essentially studying UFOs, as Bob Lazar did, and retrieving UFOs. But I think kind of the really big information and evidence would be coming out from military contractors related to Lockheed Martin, Raytheon. There are probably a few other ones that are mixed in there. I know Boeing has kind of had their fingers in this, as had a British contractor. So that happened about a week ago, little more than a week ago. And just talking about specifically that effort of having all of this declassified, I was going back and looking at kind of footage of other people talking about how NDAs have been standing in the way of kind of what has already been revealed and how kind of the efforts don't go far enough, and they're blaming these NDAs for why the public hasn't seen more information. So there was a interview that happened between Lou Elizondo and Representative Tim Burchett on Sean Hannity's podcast, or his program that is available on YouTube. And that happened on June 30th, 2026. And Lou and Burchett were both kind of talking about how the president has been told that he's not on a need-to-know basis, and information that has been given in SCIFs kind of doesn't go far enough. There's classified and declassified information, but even with the kind of executive order that Trump had signed, they're still not able to talk about any of this. And so the both of them were kind of getting riled up about how they have information that can't be revealed. So I'll put in one quick clip first here about Lou Elizondo and Burchett talking about how why doesn't the president know?
There's a lot of reasons why organizations would want to keep this type of information classified and hidden, even from the American people. The problem I have is when they keep it from people like him and they keep it from the president of the United States, that is no longer a legal activity.
Yeah, I was told in a secure environment that the president was on a need-to-know basis.
Think about that for a second.
Correct.
Who told you that?
Let me back up. It was not this president. It was the prior president, and it was the kid with the man bun. I don't remember his name. I go to so many stupid things. I just get...
Sean, think about that for a minute. Someone is making a unilateral decision in our government not to inform the president.
Okay, and then in the second clip that I'd like to highlight from that particular interview, this is Lou and Tim Burchett talking about how they have information about where crash retrieval material is kept on 5 different locations that they know about, and how there's this big program that's dedicated to this and researching it, except again, they are not allowed to tell the public.
I signed a document with the U.S. government several years ago that says specifically prohibits me from ever discussing the topic of crash retrievals.
The topic of
crash retrievals. That's all.
We have departments that have gone on record to say they have crash retrieval departments.
Wait a minute.
Within the federal government.
You kind of go into they give you a non-disclosure, so you can't talk about what you know to be true.
Right. Basically says the only thing I can say are the words crash retrieval, and I cannot elaborate anything about crash retrieval.
Okay. I've been doing this kind of a number of decades. If you say you can't talk about crash retrieval, right, that means you know about crash retrieval. Can you talk about it?
I can talk about it.
Go ahead.
Yeah. We've had in classified and unclassified, I'll just talk about the unclassified, that have sworn testimony that said there is crash retrieval programs. We've gone into secure environments where the people have discussed those crash retrieval, they've discussed what they've seen. And actually, some of them have told us where they're at to this day. The problem with that is, though, everybody says, "Oh, let's go to Area 51, Burchett," or whatever. And, you know, as soon as we announce we're going somewhere, the U-Haul vans have already left 30 minutes before we get there. And then there's, you know, Area 51, they're probably a great place to get a hamburger and a T-shirt. But I doubt there's not a dadgum thing there that would strike an interest to us.
But there are entire documentaries built around the fact that we have crash retrieval.
That's right.
And that we understand, at least to some level.
We've been told in a skiff the locations of those. How about that?
How many?
5 or you can't talk about it, but I can. Look, 5 different. I mean, they give
the government make you sign an NDA over what you know to be true?
That's a great question. We should ask them that. And this is why Congress is so important, because without Congress doing what they're doing right now, I never would have been able to make it even this far or even half as far before.
Well,
Okay, so all of the kind of information that they were talking about in that interview, it's like, and just getting more and more frustrated. That is kind of like what this new waiver is supposed to kind of tackle. So even though it kind of has to go through this legislative process of going through these different departments before it can be publicly released, I mean, at least there is a ball rolling to get things released to begin with. And then there's this kind of reporter called Ask a Poll that specifically goes up to different representatives within Congress, and he asks them about things related to UFOs, UAPs, and aliens. And he went up to Tim Burchett on July 26, 2026, and he kind of was talking to Tim, and Tim was saying that like the deep state is just hiding so much information. He's specifically hoping that this NDA waiver that has just been made, like that it kind of gets the whistleblowers talking a little bit more, and it gets more information out. And so I'll just put in that clip here.
Oh, the deep state's blocking a lot of this stuff that the president's trying to get to.
How do you get past that?
Well, there's some legislation that moved on some whistleblower stuff that was in one of the bills. So I hope maybe that'll help clear up a lot of it. But it's a fist fight. It's been that way since 1947, and we're not going to do it overnight.
Does he now get Trump at the table a little bit more in these talks?
Oh, he's in it. He's in it, but he's the one that's being denied. I mean, the deep state is real. It crosses party lines, and it's crooked as a dog's leg.
So even though all of the NDA waivers have kind of been asserted, I suppose, on July 21st, 2026, and everybody has been told at that date that they can go forward and start reporting on what they had worked on, what they had learned, researched. It was only on July 31st, 2026 was yesterday, as of the time that I'm recording this, that the principal deputy director of national intelligence actually issued an actual memorandum related to this. So the memorandum is specifically on the NDAs being waived. And so I will put that up on the screen now, and then I will read through it. It says memorandum for distribution, subject preliminary guidance for implementation of NDA waiver. This memorandum provides preliminary guidance for the release of all unidentified anomalous phenomena, UAP, information to the Presidential Unsealing and Reporting System for UAP Encounters, PURSUE, Task Force for Review and Declassification. Consistent with presidential direction, the Department of War, DOW, and the intelligence community, IC, will implement a process to ensure current and former government employees and contractors with relevant information on UAPs shall have prior non-disclosure agreements, NDA, agreements, oaths, or commitments waived when speaking with authorized government representatives of the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO, or PURSUE. All members of the IC will, within 30 days of the receipt of this memorandum, coordinate with the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, ODNI, to establish a PURSUE designee and inform their workforce of the President's order. Subsequently, ensure the workforce is aware that any previous or existing NDAs prohibiting disclosure to the President or designees like PURSUE are no longer in force, and that anyone with knowledge of UAP information should report all such information to AARO or to an authorized PURSUE representative. Detailed reporting procedures will be disseminated to IC components within the next 30 days. In addition, DOW and ODNI will be issuing to departments and agencies detailed implementation guidance for the broader PURSUE Transparency Project. And that is signed Aaron Lucas, Principal Deputy Director of National Intelligence, dated July 31st, 2026. So as you heard there is a 30-day deadline that all of this has to kind of be provided so then it can be processed. So if there's only 30 days for them to kind of gather everything, I would say like push this out another 3 to 6 months, maybe 6 months would be the average time period when you might actually start seeing this information that's being provided now actually coming out to the public. There could be like a kind of hurry up kind of directive within Congress saying that like we need to get this out faster if they know that something is going to be happening, because there's been a lot of discussion about 2027 and to 2030 and how like things will be occurring. But if there is not a hurry up process based on something that's going to occur, then I would assume like 6 months out. And so it's worth thinking about, does this change anything? Does it impact anything as far as what the public is going to see and what the public is going to know about? And this is particularly important for people that are skeptics, not experiencers, people that kind of have to rely on what the government is saying to know what's happening and to believe what's happening. And I would say, I don't expect there to be major movement. I don't expect there to be major whistleblowing kind of stories coming out of this. And so, again, just going back and doing a little bit of research on what people have been saying about NDAs and whether it makes an impact or not if the NDAs are stripped. I saw an interview with Dr. Eric Davis, and he was talking about how like he doesn't expect there to be any change really whatsoever. Like you might get small kernels of information coming out based on just like what has happened in these crash retrieval programs, like maybe adding on additional details of things that we already know about, but he doesn't expect there to be any kind of like major revelations just because the threat of retaliation is still so strong. So it wasn't that long ago that we were all talking about all of these kind of like missing scientists and dead scientists that were like working on UAPs, UFOs, anti-gravity research. And obviously, whatever happened to them, it was not legal for that kind of retribution, retaliation to occur against them. And so kind of just making it legal for people to talk, it's not going to change that retaliation either. So let's say somebody has a bunch of information about how we have NHI, like non-human intelligence bodies. We have bodies related to aliens, greys, mantids, Nordics, whatever. Let's say somebody could say, I worked on this, I've possibly even spoken to these beings, I know where these bodies are kept. And I believe Grush has even spoken about how he knows that, again, non-human biologics, he knows that we have these and they are somewhere. But for somebody to actually come out and say, I worked on this program and this is exactly what I know about them, I think it is a far stretch to think that that information will come out anytime soon. And if it does end up coming out, I think it would be a catastrophic disclosure. I don't think that anything like that would be reported to AARO or PURSUE, and then they're going to quickly this year reveal that information just because it's so disruptive. It would be completely shocking to the average person to think that like these beings are here, they're interacting with us, and not only that, but they are all of their existence and everything about them has been hidden from the public by the government. Like it would just cause like such outrage. And just even touching on that outrage, there was also something that Matthew Brown, the whistleblower, kind of said in this past week, and he said that he thinks the reason why we don't have disclosure happening faster is because of the outrage of the cover-up. And so I know that this is not the video to get into it today, as far as like what kind of protections could you give to whistleblowers that may have worked on these programs and covered it up and done possibly horrible things in order to cover up these programs. But that is a big kind of reason to think that there might not be more information coming out soon in the next year or two, is just because these actual people that have worked on the programs, they're so concerned like about retaliation from the public themselves, about kind of what has been done and what measures have been taken in order to kind of shut people up. So regardless of what they were researching, again, you have probably these contractors in certain divisions of the government that will go after people and eliminate them for revealing the information at all. But you'd also, on the other hand, have a bunch of angry Americans and just angry people in the Western world that are saying, well, this kind of changes what we think about humanity. It changes what we think about reality and the societies that we live in, and everything could have possibly been made like so much better, less competitive and less classist, and put a whole snowball together of how things could be different in a like kind of more positive, beneficial respect. And now you get to put like a lot of blame on these particular people that were in these programs that were covering it all up, and you're going to have just a lot of kind of like righteous anger. So yeah, just for different reasons, people wouldn't want to be coming forward. They don't want that kind of hate being spewed at them, just kind of like from every different side. As always, I guess keep our fingers crossed that we will have somebody coming forward with catastrophic disclosure. I know a lot of people are saying like, no, you shouldn't want that. You don't want that kind of disruption to society, but at this point, I feel like that's the only way that things would change. And this NDA waiver, it's nice. It will probably have a very, very tiny little impact on what we see and how we kind of like approach this topic, but it's not enough. And so, yeah, if any possible whistleblowers out there watching this right now, best of luck to you, and I hope that you can come forward and just kind of put all of the information out there, because otherwise it's going to take forever and probably never come. So thank you so much for watching today, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.